Lina had always imagined New York as a distant dream, a glowing constellation of skyscrapers, opportunities, and stories waiting to be lived. But now, standing at the exit of JFK Airport with her suitcases shaking on uneven pavement, she realized that dreams looked very different when you stepped inside them. The city was louder than she expected, faster, and filled with people who seemed to know exactly where they were going, while she, freshly arrived from Ukraine, wasn't even sure how to get to her dorm without embarrassing herself. Still, she inhaled deeply and told herself she hadn't come this far to doubt. She was here to grow, to learn, to become someone new. The cab ride to Manhattan felt like being taken into another universe. Yellow taxis honked as if speaking in a language she didn't understand, giant billboards flashed with faces of people she'd never meet, and the skyline rose like an enormous reminder that success belonged to the brave. Lina pressed her forehead to the window, whispering, "This is really happening," unsure whether she meant her excitement or her fear. Her university campus was beautiful in a way she didn't expect. Old red brick buildings covered in ivy mixed with sleek modern halls full of students typing on laptops and sipping iced coffee like it was water. She checked in, dropped her luggage, and realized she had a bigger problem. She was starving, and the tiny bag of snacks she carried from home wouldn't last a day. Gathering all her courage, she stepped outside to explore the neighborhood. New Yorkers moved like waves, fast, purposeful, unstoppable. Every time she tried to merge into the crowd, someone brushed past her, and she whispered, "Sorry," even when she wasn't sure it was her fault. After nearly 20 minutes of wandering, she spotted a place that looked warm and welcoming. A small cafe with big windows, glowing string lights, and the smell of fresh pastries floating through the door every time it opened. The sign above read maple and bean coffee. It felt like the kind of place where people discovered new chapters in their lives. She pushed the door open, and a bell chimed above her head. The inside was even cozier. Soft jazz, wooden tables, walls covered with photos of smiling customers. The barista behind the counter smiled brightly and asked, "What can I get started for you?" That was when everything inside Lina froze. She had practiced ordering coffee in English dozens of times at home. "Can I get a latte? Medium latte, please. One latte to go." But nothing in her practice sessions prepared her for that phrase. "What can I get started for you?" Started? Like starting a project? Starting a conversation? Starting what? Her brain scrambled, searching for meaning. She stood there like someone pressed pause on her life. The line behind her grew, and she felt her cheeks heat up. Sorry. "I'm still learning English," she whispered. Instead of getting impatient, the barista's smile widened kindly. "No worries. It just means, what would you like to order?" She exhaled a breath she didn't know she was holding. "Oh, a small latte, please. For here or to go?" Another wave of panic washed over her. She vaguely recognized the phrase, but wasn't sure how to answer without sounding foolish. The barista noticed her hesitation. "Are you staying here or taking it with you?" "Here," she managed, relieved to understand. He typed it in and said, "Name for the order?" That was one she understood. "Lina." She stepped aside, clutching the receipt like it was a golden ticket. But instead of feeling proud, she felt defeated. How would she survive classes, conversations, group projects, if even a simple coffee order felt like climbing a mountain? When her latte was ready, the barista called her name and handed her the cup with a warm smile. "Welcome to the neighborhood," he said. Something about those words felt like a promise, one she desperately needed. Lina sat down by the window, sipping her latte slowly. The city outside kept moving, rushing, roaring, but inside the cafe, time felt softer. And somewhere between the steam rising from her cup and the jazz humming in the air, Lina made herself another promise. She would not run from discomfort. She would grow through it. New York wasn't supposed to be easy. It was supposed to be transformative. And this tiny victory, was the beginning of everything. The next morning, Lina woke up before her alarm, her body still confused by jet lag and her mind buzzing with everything that happened yesterday. She stared at the ceiling of her new dorm room, listening to the unfamiliar hum of the city outside. New York didn't sleep, and it certainly didn't wait for anyone to catch up. She rubbed her eyes, sat up, and reminded herself that today she wouldn't let fear decide how things would go. She dressed quickly, grabbed her notebook, and stepped outside into the crisp morning air. The street was already alive, delivery trucks unloading boxes, students hurrying to early classes, dogs pulling their owners along the sidewalk like they were late for something important. Lina felt a strange combination of belonging and foreignness, like she was both inside the world and observing it from the outside. Her first class was Academic English and Communication, something every international student had to take. Lina felt relieved knowing she wouldn't be the only one struggling. When she walked into the classroom, she scanned the room for familiar faces. There were none, but she recognized something comforting, uncertainty in other students' eyes. A tall girl with long dark braids sat next to her and smiled shyly. "First day," she whispered. Lina nodded. "Yeah, I'm Lina." "I'm Priya," the girl replied. "Don't worry. Everyone is nervous. I spent 5 minutes rehearsing how to say, 'Good morning,' to the teacher." They both laughed quietly, the kind of laugh that comes from shared insecurity. Their professor, a cheerful woman named Ms. Reynolds, walked in with colorful markers and the energy of someone who genuinely loved her job. "Welcome, everyone," she announced. "If you're feeling nervous, congratulations, you're human. This class will help you feel confident using English in real college life. We'll practice conversations, presentations, and even learn common American phrases so you don't feel lost at the grocery store or coffee shop." Lina's face warmed. If only Ms. Reynolds had been there yesterday at Maple and Bean Coffee. The class began with an exercise. Introduce yourself to 3 people and share one challenge you're facing with English. Lina's heart raced, but she forced herself to stand. Her first conversation was awkward, the second slightly better, and by the third she found herself laughing with a Brazilian student who complained, "Why do Americans talk so fast? Do they get paid per word?" For the first time since arriving, Lina felt like she wasn't alone. After class, Priya caught up to her. "Want to grab lunch together?" Lina hesitated. New people, new situations, but she remembered her promise from the cafe. Grow through discomfort. "Sure," she said, and they walked to a student dining hall that buzzed with noise, smells, and conversations in dozens of languages. While they ate, Priya told her about homesickness, cultural shock, and the struggle of calling customer service in English. Every story made Lina feel more understood, like she was slowly stitching herself into the fabric of this new place. Later in the afternoon, she wandered around campus, letting curiosity guide her. She discovered a quiet courtyard with benches, a hidden garden behind the library, and a board full of student clubs: photography, dance, debate, volunteering. A part of her wanted to sign up for all of them just to feel like she belonged somewhere. As she passed the coffee shop again, the memory of yesterday's panic flashed through her mind. She almost walked past, but stopped. No. She wasn't running from anything today. She pushed the door open, the bell chimed, and the same barista looked up. "Hey, Lina, right?" She blinked in surprise. "You remember my name?" "Of course." He grinned. "Ready to order without fear today?" She straightened her shoulders. "I'll try. A small latte for here." "Nailed it," he said, tapping her order into the system. "See, you're already becoming a New Yorker." Lina smiled as she took her drink. Maybe he was right. Every step felt small, but small steps add up. Sitting by the window again, watching the crowds blur past, she whispered to herself, "I can do this. One day at a time." And for the first time since arriving, she fully believed it. A week passed faster than Lina expected, filled with new routines, new faces, and new challenges that pushed her far outside her comfort zone. Every morning she woke up a little earlier, not because she had to, but because she wanted to give herself more time to adjust to the rhythm of the city. She was slowly starting to understand that New York wasn't just a place, it was a test, a constant invitation to grow. One chilly morning she found herself once again standing in line at Maple and Bean Coffee, this time feeling less like an outsider. The familiar scent of roasted beans calmed her nerves. When the barista, whose name she learned was Jason, asked, "The usual latte for Lina," she nearly laughed from pure joy. Someone in this enormous city remembered her. "Yes, please," she answered confidently, and the ease in her voice surprised even her. Jason leaned over the counter. "You sound more relaxed than last week. New York treating you better." "Maybe I'm just learning how to survive it," she joked, and he chuckled. Once seated, she reopened her notebook filled with vocabulary she collected in class, from conversations, from signs she saw around the city. Words she once feared were slowly becoming her allies. That day in her English class, Ms. Reynolds introduced a group project. Each team had to create a short presentation teaching a real-life English skill. Lina's group, Priya, the Brazilian student Marco, and a quiet Korean girl named Hannah, chose ordering food with confidence. When they brainstormed ideas, Lina shared her embarrassing first-day story. Instead of laughing at her, the group leaned in, fascinated. "That's perfect," Marco said. "Let's recreate the scene. It's funny and useful." Priya clapped her hands. "Yes. And we can show the right and wrong ways to respond. People will totally get it." Lina felt heat rising to her cheeks. Being the center of attention terrified her, but something inside whispered that this could be another small victory. They rehearsed for hours, laughing every time Lina delivered her frozen panic face, which quickly became the highlight of the presentation. Surprisingly, Lina didn't feel embarrassed. She felt empowered. She was using her mistake to help others. When presentation day arrived, Lina's heart pounded like a drum. The classroom lights felt too bright, the room too quiet. But when she looked at her teammates, smiling encouragingly, her fear shrank just enough. She took a breath and stepped forward. Their skit went better than she ever imagined. Students laughed in all the right places, and even Ms. Reynolds wiped tears of laughter from her eyes. When they finished, the room erupted in applause. "Lina," the professor said, "your story probably helped more students than you realize. Thank you for being brave enough to share it." Brave. No one had called her that before, not even back home. She swallowed a lump in her throat and smiled. After class, multiple students approached her, saying things like, "I had the same experience," or your story made me feel less stupid about my mistakes." For the first time, Lina saw the power of vulnerability. Her flaws didn't make her weaker, they made her relatable. That afternoon she walked out of the building feeling lighter, taller somehow. She passed Maple and Bean Coffee but didn't stop. Instead she raised her chin to the sky, letting the cold wind brush her face. She didn't need a latte to feel grounded today. Victory itself was enough. And as she crossed the busy street among rushing strangers, she realized she no longer felt invisible. New York hadn't gotten smaller, but she had grown bigger. By the middle of her second month in New York, Lina felt as if the city were finally opening its doors to her, but with every new opportunity came a new challenge hiding behind it. One cold Saturday morning, she decided to explore a part of Manhattan she had never visited before. Her plan was simple: take the subway, walk around, maybe take some photos, and just exist in the world like everyone else seemed to. But New York had a way of testing people exactly when they felt confident. At the subway station, she hesitated in front of the turnstile, trying to remember if her Metro card still had money on it. She tapped it. Insufficient fare. A sigh escaped her. She stepped aside, trying to reload the card, but the machine showed an error she couldn't understand. The line behind her grew. People muttered. Someone clicked their tongue impatiently. Her hands trembled as she tried again. Another error. For a moment she felt like she was right back in the coffee shop on her first day, confused, lost, trapped inside her own fear. "Do you need help?" a voice asked. A middle-aged woman stepped forward, her tone warm. "These machines glitch all the time. Here, let me show you." In less than a minute, the woman fixed the issue and reloaded the card. "You're all set," she said. "Don't worry, every New Yorker has had this moment." Lina thanked her, relief washing over her like a warm blanket. On the subway, she held the metal pole and watched the city blur past the windows. She realized something important. People in New York weren't cold, they were just busy. But when someone truly needed help, kindness always found a way to appear. When she reached Midtown, she wandered through crowded streets filled with honking taxis, street vendors, and giant screens flashing colors in every direction. She felt tiny again, but not in a bad way. More like she was a small part of something enormous and alive. At a bookstore, she stepped inside to warm up, and while flipping through a motivational book, a quote caught her eye: "Growth begins the moment comfort ends." She closed her eyes and breathed deeply. This was her journey. Her discomfort was proof she was evolving. As she walked back toward the station, wind whipping through her hair, she understood that New York tested her not to break her, but to build her. She wasn't the scared girl who froze in a coffee shop anymore. She was stronger now, still learning, still stumbling, but moving forward with purpose. And the city, in its own wild way, was teaching her how to stand tall. Winter break was approaching, and New York was slowly transforming into a city of glowing lights, busy shoppers, and cold wind that cut right through Lina's coat. She wrapped her scarf tighter as she walked toward campus, rehearsing in her mind the lines she had prepared for her final English presentation. Ms. Reynolds had given them freedom to choose any topic, something personal, something meaningful, something that showed how far they had come. After weeks of thinking, Lina finally chose a simple title: "How a Cup of Coffee Changed My Life." It felt right, honest, and a little bit terrifying. As she entered the classroom, she saw Priya waving, Marco giving her a thumbs up, and Hannah smiling softly. Their support warmed her more than her jacket ever could. One by one, students presented stories of struggles, hope, and growth. And then it was her turn. Lina inhaled slowly and stepped to the front of the room. "When I arrived in New York," she began, her voice steady but quiet, "I thought the hardest part would be studying. But actually, the hardest part was ordering a latte." The room chuckled, gently, encouragingly. She continued, explaining how she froze at the unfamiliar phrase, "What can I get started for you?" How embarrassed she felt, and how that tiny moment made her question whether she belonged in this city at all. Then she spoke about Jason remembering her name, about the first time she ordered without fear, about the group presentation that turned her mistake into something helpful for others. "And that's when I realized," she said, her eyes bright with emotion, "that learning English is not just about vocabulary or grammar. It's about courage. It's about trying again after you fail. It's about choosing growth even when it's uncomfortable." The room grew still, moved by her words. "A cup of coffee didn't just teach me English," she finished softly. "It taught me confidence. It taught me that I can find my place in this huge city, one small victory at a time." When she stepped back, applause erupted, warm, loud, real. Ms. Reynolds beamed. "Lina," she said, "that was beautiful. You didn't just find your English voice. You found your voice." After class, students hugged her, thanked her, and shared their own stories of fear and triumph. For the first time, Lina felt like she wasn't just surviving New York, she was becoming part of it. Later that evening, she walked to Maple and Bean Coffee. Snowflakes drifted gently from the sky, and the cafe glowed like a safe haven. Inside, Jason looked up and grinned. "There she is, the girl who conquered the latte." She laughed. "Something like that." "The usual?" he asked. "Actually," she paused, feeling bold, "I want to try something new. A caramel cappuccino." Jason put a hand to his heart dramatically. "Look at you taking risks." She rolled her eyes playfully. When her drink arrived, he had written a message on the cup, "You're doing great." Lina stared at the words, warmth blooming in her chest stronger than any coffee could offer. She sat by the window, watching snowfall coat the busy street. People rushed past, students, business workers, tourists, but for once she didn't feel like an outsider watching life through glass. She felt present. She felt capable. She felt ready. New York was still chaotic, loud, unpredictable, but now she understood something. The city didn't get easier, she got stronger. And she would keep getting stronger, one phrase, one challenge, one brave moment at a time. Finished with her drink, she stood, pushed open the cafe door, and stepped into the swirling snow with a smile. Lina had found her voice. And the city she once feared no longer felt impossible. It felt like home.